Welcome back to 73 in the RGV. I am David, your host, KI5DOG, and welcome. Good to have you here. Welcome back for another episode. In today's episode, well, as you see by the title, you have an HT, a handheld, and you want to talk to people around the world. You technically can. And let's talk about that today. So, for those of you that have technician class licenses, this does apply to you. You can reach your local repeater with your HT or mobile device or home-based device, and that's good. But what if that same radio could potentially connect you with another amateur radio operator hundreds or even thousands of miles away? But you're a technician. It can. EchoLink, that's what we're talking about today, EchoLink, and it's a system that combines amateur radio with the internet that allows licensed amateur radio operators like yourself to communicate through connected repeaters, links, and computers. See, the question here at this point then becomes, because I mentioned the computers and the internet, and the question becomes, and I've heard it asked, is EchoLink really amateur radio if the internet is involved? Great question. Is it real radio? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But there are some very important distinctions. So with that being said, let's get this episode started. So before we really dive in and go into the deep end, or off the deep end, it depends on how you look at it, let's talk about what exactly is EchoLink. EchoLink allows licensed amateur radio operators to communicate with other licensed operators using voice over IP. Voice over VoIP. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called VoIP, VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol. Voice over IP technology connected to amateur radio stations and repeaters. This basic concept here. Let's follow this path. Your radio connects to an EchoLink enabled repeater or link, which is then connected to the internet, which then connects to another EchoLink node, which then continues to connect to another amateur radio operator. Or, in some cases, and when I've set it up in my case, the computer connects to the internet, which then connects to an EchoLink node repeater, right? And then there you go. So see, the cycle begins. So potentially, EchoLink application on your phone, there's an app. We'll talk a little bit about those as well. Is already connected to the internet, and you're a licensed operator. You can technically communicate with another EchoLink user. So why does this all matter? Well, it matters because technology now allows amateur radio operators, especially the technician class, and everybody else as well. It's not just limited to technicians, but it allows operators to talk to amateur operators around the world, access distant repeaters, stay connected while traveling, participate in nets when you're out of the area, practice operating skills, reach amateur radio communities outside your local area, and learn how other repeater systems operate, and potentially support communications during certain emergency situations. That's right. So again, EchoLink does not replace RF. No, it's never going to replace that. Okay, it extends the reach and connectivity of the amateur radio, but it does not replace. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a bit. Now, I'm going to be throwing out some terms, so let's do a quick EchoLink vocabulary lesson. All righty. So, here we go. And we're going to start the 73 in the RGV Radio Dictionary. So, let's consider this the first entry. We'll be adding more as we go along. So, EchoLink user. A licensed amateur radio operator using EchoLink. Node, N-O-D-E, November Oscar Delta Echo. An individual EchoLink connection point. And a node can be associated with a computer, a radio, a repeater, another type of EchoLink station. Link, Lima, India, November Kilo. Link, a station that connects EchoLink to an amateur radio frequency. Repeater, a traditional RF repeater that may have an EchoLink connection. Conference, a virtual meeting point where multiple EchoLink users or nodes can connect. DTMF, DTMF, Delta Tango Mike Foxtrot. DTMF. It's not don't touch M. Okay. No, it's DTMF. The tone generated by the keypad on your radio. DTMF can be used to control EchoLink functions through an EchoLink enabled repeater or link. Now, again, so that's a little bit more involved. And in some cases, those are disabled. All right. So just be prepared to not use those. Okay. All right. Now, so we don't need to memorize everything. And then there's going to be a list of DTMF commands and stuff like that. Don't worry about it. Not right now. Again, we're introducing you to this. We're not diving. We're not taking that deep dive. And to do that deep dive, that's a little bit later on. All righty. So let's, again, those are the first entries into the 73 in the RGV radio dictionary. Now the question is, how do I get started? Now this is where we move from what is EchoLink to how do I actually use it? So several steps involved here. One, and first and foremost, folks, have an amateur radio license. You need your amateur radio license. Actually, the system calls for you to enter your call sign. So the software does. So ensure that you have your amateur radio license. And if you don't have it, hey, this is a great opportunity to, one, get to learn more about EchoLink and learn more about amateur radio and getting yourself licensed and what it takes to get licensed. And folks, there are a lot of great resources out there. Again, this is just a hub. This podcast is just a hub, but the websites that I've shared with you, the local websites, you can go to arrl.org and visit that website and look in there. How do I get licensed? And they'll walk you through to find your local area, wherever you happen to be. If you happen to be in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas, we've got some great testers and volunteer testers. And again, they'll be more than happy to work with you to get you tested. Now it's up to you to get the to learn what you need to do, but they'll guide you along the way. They will not give you the answers, but they will give you, hey, here's the test material. Here is the training material. Here's this website. Here is who you can talk to and get trained. So either way, drop me a note, ki5dog@yahoo.com, or visit ki5dog@yahoo.com. Drop me a note that says, hey, David, I'm interested in learning and testing. Who do I reach out to? I'll ask you where you're from, what part of the area you're from, and I'll put you in touch with the right people. I know people. They think I don't. I do. And especially the ones that can help with getting you scheduled for a test. Because, hey, get licensed, join our hobby. It's a lot of fun. It really is. It really is. Even if you're just a passive participant or a very active participant or somewhere in between, it's a lot of fun. Get registered, get licensed, and get tested, get licensed, and join us. So that's step one. Have an amateur radio license. Step two, register or validate your call sign. As I mentioned, in the EchoLink software, you're going to need to create an account. You're going to need to provide your call sign and complete the call sign validation process. It's simple. It's very easy, but it all begins and ends with your call sign. Follow EchoLink's current verification process, and it's really, really simple. Now, why validation? Because again, EchoLink is specifically designed for licensed amateur radio operators. So you have a call sign, you're already in, but you got to have that call sign. I cannot stress that enough. Next, Windows computer. Now, there are other interfaces, or there are other, for Android and things like that, or Mac. But right now we're talking about Windows computer, seems to be the more popular one. So the Windows application we're going to use as the primary setup path for this episode. So we want to install EchoLink, register, validate our call sign, configure the audio, select an EchoLink node, listen, connect, make a contact. Don't get lost in the weeds. Again, I've got more resources and links in the show notes. I've got links to videos and documentation. If you're watching this on YouTube, down below are all the links. So again, don't feel like, hey, well, he's just giving me and he's not teaching me. Well, no, again, that's on you, but I am providing the beginnings, okay? I'll get you started. You got to take that second step, the third step, and every step thereafter, okay? Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are other ways to use EchoLink. You can use it on Android devices, your iPhone or iOS devices, radio-connected links, simplex links, or EchoLink-enabled repeaters. But today's focus, again, is on Windows-based radio-connected, and radio-connected nodes. Sorry about that. So again, real simple. You got to get that computer. So you got to get that license. Get the account set up, get it installed on your computer, do the tweaking, and listen first. As always, listen before you dive right in. But hey, once you're in, go into the deep end, always. And don't drown. So that was with software. Now let's talk about EchoLink through your radio. And again, in your area, this has to be something that's already set up. So we'll talk about using your HT, your handheld. And we're going to connect EchoLink to something new technician already understands. So again, you've already got it. Your handheld, your Baofeng, your Yaesu, your TID radio, any tone, whatever you happen to have, kudos. All right, doesn't matter. A typical experience using EchoLink with your HT might be something like this. Your HT connects to a local EchoLink repeater, which is connected to the internet, which then connects to a distant EchoLink repeater, and now you're talking to a distant operator. Now, the radio operator may not need to sit in front of a computer, so you might not, because again, you're using your HT. So the EchoLink connection may already exist through the repeater or a link. So again, be careful here. If it's not set up, it's not going to work. You can sit here and hit those DTMF tones, and nothing's going to happen. But, okay, well, I got ahead of myself. Let's talk about the DTMF concept. Your radio's keypad can generate DTMF tones that an EchoLink-enabled repeater may interpret as commands. For example, the system may allow you to connect to another node, or disconnect from a node, or perform other system functions. Now, DTMF commands vary by system, so listeners should learn the commands for the particular repeater or link they're using. Okay, so again, they're out there, those tones. You hit the keypad. Now, for those of us that are a little bit older and remember the old phones, the hardwired home phones, man, some of us still have them. The home, right? Okay, it's got a wire, runs to the house. Okay, not the cell phone. No, and whenever you hit the dial, you hear the dial tone, you pick up your phone. You pick up the receiver, the handheld part of it, and then you hit the buttons there. Those tones, those are DTMF tones. So again, now if the system that you're trying to connect with or use to initially connect with is not set up for that, you're not going to hear it. And if you don't know the tones, you don't know the commands, which sequence of numbers to type in, it's not going to work. So do not go around hitting the buttons. Now, again, that just creates havoc. If you know them, you know them. If you don't, you don't. But if the EchoLink system is not enabled in your area, you know what? It doesn't hurt to ask. So ask, get on the air and, just keep the mic. Hey, this is so-and-so. This is my call sign. New here. Is this an EchoLink enabled repeater? Do we have EchoLink enabled repeaters here? And they'll let you know. They'll let you know. Somebody will respond, let you know. Now, again, don't key up the mic, ask for that, and give up after 30 seconds, especially during the workday. Most of us are working. Most of us are off to the side where we might be monitoring, but we're not able to key up the mic. So, again, usually your best time for asking questions like that is in the evenings. And in my neck of the woods down here in the RGV, we have we have weekly nets and nightly nets. So don't hesitate, and monthly nets as well. Don't hesitate to join us then. Join us then at those nets and just say, hey, they do open it up to new individuals that are not part of the Oxcom group for the weekly. And the daily, they will call out for, depending on your status. But number one, you need to have your license. So don't hesitate to ask. Say, hey, is this, I heard this episode on 73 in the RGV podcast, and we talked about EchoLink. Do we have any EchoLink enabled repeaters here? And if we do, what are the tones to get on, or how do I get that information? Now, don't worry about the gatekeepers. There's always going to be gatekeepers. Don't worry about them. Somebody will give you an answer, okay? But it does not hurt to ask. Alrighty. So let's move on. All right, now we're going to shift a little bit. Let's get into this versus that. EchoLink versus traditional RF. Alrighty. So traditional RF, the strengths are it does not require the internet. It's direct radio communication. Excellent for local communications, very useful for emergency preparedness. While EchoLink, well, the strengths of EchoLink are it extends geographic reach, connects distant repeaters, can connect operators around the world, and it's useful while traveling and provides access to amateur radio communities outside your normal area. So, which one is better than the other? Well, we're not going to ask that question because they're both better at what they do, right? But ultimately, amateur radio was based on radio, right? That's where it comes from. So that's where the big discussion, right? The big discussion comes: is EchoLink really radio, right? Is it really amateur radio? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But what? Ask the better question. Ask the better question: is what tool makes the most sense for what I'm trying to accomplish? Now, I'm a technician class, and I would love to talk to somebody from Germany, but I don't have the ability to, or right, my antenna does not configure it, or my orientation does not let me get to Germany using the 10-meter band that I'm allowed to communicate on. Right, so EchoLink is another tool in the amateur radio toolbox. That's really it. So think about it that way. Yes, you can, but you're not going to be able to do it locally over radio. But hey, EchoLink is there for you. So give it a try. Now, I did mention the question, and I brought it back up. I started with the show with that, and I brought it back up again. Is EchoLink really amateur radio? Well, the fact that EchoLink uses the internet does not eliminate the amateur radio component. When you are communicating through an RF-connected EchoLink station, you're still operating within the amateur radio system. But there's a crucial point here. EchoLink does not give you additional radio privileges. You're still bound to what you have. So in this case, we're focusing on technician class. EchoLink does not give you additional radio privileges. Your license privileges still apply. So therefore, what does that mean? It means that you must follow FCC rules. You have no choice. You have to follow those rules. Your license class privileges, your frequency restrictions, your station operating requirements, rules applicable to the RF station you are using. So EchoLink is not, also know the following. EchoLink is not private. Oh no, it's not private, and it is not encrypted communication. I will repeat that as a full sentence. EchoLink is not private or encrypted communication. One more time, please, just to satisfy the onlookers. EchoLink is not private or encrypted communication. So please remember that. Alrighty, but again, don't forget. Stay within your lane as far as your license privileges and stay applied. Don't mess that up. Another thing I alluded to a little bit earlier is EchoLink as an emergency communications tool. It's useful. It's not magic, but it's a useful tool. So let's break this down. EchoLink can be useful in emergency communications and preparedness, but avoid treating it as an emergency communications replacement. It is not an emergency communications replacement. Now, again, what are the potential uses? Well, we can connect distant operators, supporting nets, maintaining communications while traveling, sharing information across geographic areas, and of course, connecting operators when normal local communications are limited. Now, EchoLink generally depends on internet connectivity for the network connection, or for its network connection. So if it's going to work, it's because it needs to have the internet up and running. So therefore, do not make EchoLink your only emergency communication method. A prepared amateur radio operator should understand RF simplex, local repeaters, backup power, and of course, alternative communication methods. So again, don't make it the only one. Make it part of the toolbox. Make it part of, it's the fallbacks, But if in the area was just recently hit, say with a hurricane or a severe tropical storm, and it took out lines, it took out infrastructure, then the internet might not be available for a while. Right. But radio frequencies, they're still there. They're still happening. They're still wide open. Well, depends on how far you're reaching, but they're available. And that should be your primary, not your only. That should be your primary EchoLink, not your only. There we go. Alrighty. So again, keep that in mind. Keep it as an alternative communication method, and keep it in your toolbox. So, hey, get set up if you're not already set up. Even if you never ever use it again, get set up because you never know. Okay, let's talk about making mistakes. We all make them. We will continue to make them. No one, and I do mean no one, is immune from making mistakes. So this is our common beginner mistake segment, and it's important because it's part of learning amateur radio. Alrighty, so in the setup, you're going to make a mistake, and that's not validating your call sign correctly. Follow the current EchoLink validation procedures carefully. They're not there to trip you up, but you do have to go all the way through to get it done. Okay, next, not understanding node numbers. Take a few minutes to understand what node numbers represent. So when you're in the system, you'll have to punch in some numbers, and you'll be good to go. Now, forgetting to disconnect. It's not as prevalent as it may have been. I don't know. I highly doubt that inactive connections stay on and on and on. So make sure you disconnect, but I know that they also time out for inactivity. So don't fall back on that. Never mind. I'll just let it disconnect to me on its own. No. Leave a repeater or a conference when you're done. Disconnect when you're done. Alrighty. Now, of course, the number 4 should technically be number 1, but it's important whether it's EchoLink or a simplex conversation or a weekly net or a daily net, and that is transmitting over an existing conversation. Folks, it's simple. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Listen first. Wait your turn. Key up when it's your turn. Talking too long. Remember, your transmission may be traveling through multiple systems. All right, so don't, break it down. Break it down. Let go of the mic. Hit that button. Turn off the mic there, and then key back up again. Keep it bite size. And again, it might be, you're going to get used to it. You're going to make that mistake of talking too long initially, but you'll figure it out. Listen to the other side, how they respond to you. Alrighty, so. The next one here. Poor microphone technique. Speak clearly and maintain an appropriate distance from the microphone. All right. So now if you're calling to other countries, all right, you're connecting with other countries, other repeaters on other countries, speak clearly. Okay. Doesn't mean you have to speak louder. Speak clearly, maintain an appropriate distance from the microphone, and in most cases, most individuals will understand you. All right. But of course, if your accent's a little heavy, it's okay. Sometimes just slowing it down and being clear, that'll do it. All right, so no worries. It just follow what's going on, but again, just be clear. Not understanding the DTMF, the tones. Do not understanding the tones. Alrighty. So learn the basic commands for your system and go from there. Now, of course, the EchoLink will provide some information there in the documentation on the DTMFs. Alrighty. Mistake number 8, assuming that EchoLink is private. EchoLink is not private. EchoLink has never been private. It will not be private. You're hitting a repeater, so everybody's going to hear it. Alrighty. Assuming EchoLink is encrypted. It is not. It is not encrypted. No, it's not going to be encrypted. It should not be encrypted. So heads up on that. And forgetting that RF rules still apply. The internet does not change your amateur radio privileges. So again, remember, your privileges stay the same whether you're talking to someone in the next county, the next state, or the next country, or the other side of the next ocean. Either way, your privileges stay the same. So don't mess those up. Please do not. Alrighty. Now, You're going to get to this point where it's like, what if I don't know what I'm doing? It's okay. It's important for new technicians. You're getting in there. You want to dive in and learn and do everything all at once. That's fine. It happens. But you're going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And again, I reiterate that. Everyone makes mistakes. So yes, you will push the wrong button. You will forget a command. You will definitely mispronounce something. You'll not understand the jargon. And you're going to connect to something you did not intend to connect and ask a question that someone else thinks is obvious. Oh, geez. Yes. You know what? At one point, it was not obvious to them, but yet today they feel, hey, well, that's such an obvious question. You know what? That's okay. The goal is not to never make mistakes. The goal is to learn from your mistakes. So don't hesitate. Ask. Don't know the jargon? Ask. Don't understand a node? Ask. Don't know how to connect? Ask. Need help? Ask. Please ask for help. We're going to make those mistakes, and new technicians, we're going to be full of them. We are loaded with them. Because again, we all make mistakes. We're all new. Everyone was new at one point. Everyone was new at one point. And you know what? I'm not saying let's handle every situation with kid gloves, but you know what? We were all kids once. So how do you ask for help? Well, guess what? I'm going to give you a couple of phrases that you can use. All right. So, example 1. This is, and then your call sign. I'm new to EchoLink and have a question. Is anyone available to help? Or you can go, this is your call sign. I'm trying EchoLink for the first time. Did I come through okay? Or this is your call sign. I'm still learning EchoLink. Can someone explain how this node works? Great questions. Great questions. See? Again, you're introducing yourself. You're telling them you're new, and you have a question. And ask the question all at one time. Don't wait for them to respond. Yeah, go ahead with your question. No, just include the question. Right? And of course, if you need help and it's going to be a little bit bigger, then by all means. Now, so where can you find help? Well, first of all, ask an experienced ham. But you don't know who they are. That's okay. Contact the local clubs. Find an Elmer, right? Someone who wants to be a mentor, someone who wants to help you grow. Of course, sometimes just the best thing to do is to read the documentation. But sometimes if the documentation does not come with illustrations, we don't want to read it, right? Yeah, unfortunately, read the EchoLink documentation. It really does help. Ask questions during appropriate repeater conversations. Participate in legitimate online amateur radio communities. The thing here is asking for help is not a sign that you don't belong. It's how you learn and how you become a member, and it's how you belong. So work with that. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. Seek out answers. Ask experienced hams. Contact the local clubs. Read the documentation. Listen in on conversations. Step in when you can. How you can. Do not talk over someone. No, that's not good manners, and that's not how you win friends and influence people. Participate in legitimate online amateur radio communities. There are a lot of them out there. Now, of course, I'd be remiss if I did not include a what not to do section. I've shared with you what to do, but do not. Let's talk about the do nots. New operators. Do not connect without listening first. All right. Do not monopolize a conference. Do not repeatedly connect and disconnect. Do not treat EchoLink like a private telephone. Do not assume everyone knows what you're trying to do. Again, do not repeatedly connect and disconnect because everybody hears it. They'll hear your call sign too. This call sign connected. This call sign disconnected. They'll hear it. They'll know who you are. So again, none of that nonsense. You give yourself away sometimes. So it might be cool. It might be interesting. It might sound like, look, I connected. But no, don't repeatedly do it. Connect. Keep the mic. Say this is your call sign. You're new. You're testing. Let them know what you're doing. minimizes that connecting, disconnecting, and then you quickly create your call sign becomes like, I remember this call sign. It was playing around earlier today. Again, do not repeatedly connect and disconnect. Experienced operators, thought I forgot about you, didn't you? Thought I forgot about you, but no. The experienced operators, do not ridicule someone for not understanding EchoLink. Please, do not assume everyone knows node numbers or DTMF commands. Discourage legitimate experimentation. Do not do that. Do not discourage legitimate experimentation. And again, as I mentioned before, do not forget that you were once new. And if you go by that, well, that's how they treated me, that's how they need to learn now, that's the wrong way. It's a new day and age. Now, remember, the thing here is for the amateur radio community, and especially the experienced operators, we want to teach first, then criticize later if we need to criticize, but we always criticize in private. So teach first. And experienced operators, be the Elmer you wish you had. If all you had was just bad mentors and rude individuals guiding you along the way, were they really guiding you? No, probably not. Did it make you a better ham? Yeah, because you knew what not to do, how not to behave. So you break that cycle. So again, let's just experienced operators, let's just assume that everyone does not understand, everyone does not know, and it's our job to teach. All right, so we're going to start wrapping up this episode, but before we do that, I want you to try this before the next episode drops. All right, so it's a EchoLink challenge. Your 8-step EchoLink challenge. 1, download EchoLink. 2, validate your call sign. 3, find 3 nearby EchoLink nodes. 4, listen to an EchoLink connected repeater. 5, make your first EchoLink connection. 6, practice connecting and disconnecting, not repeatedly, but let them know what you're doing in the middle. Make 1 contact outside your normal geographic area. Ask another ham 1 EchoLink question. And again, that's your challenge. 8-step EchoLink challenge. Download EchoLink, validate your call sign, find 3 nearby EchoLink nodes, listen to an EchoLink connected repeater, make your first EchoLink connection, practice connecting and disconnecting, make 1 contact outside your normal geographic area, ask another ham 1 EchoLink repeater, 1 EchoLink question. Now, my challenge question to you is, what did you learn that you did not know before that you started? So again, share your experience in the show notes down below. In the comments section, if you're watching this on YouTube, what did you learn that you did not know before you started? So let me know. Also, in the show notes and on YouTube down below in the comments, or right below here is the description, is I've got some links. I've got some official EchoLink resources, link to the website, the documentation, the EchoLink FAQ, the EchoLink download page. And these are particularly useful for Windows installation, call sign validation, configuration, user or node information, and of course, troubleshooting. But hey, that's not all. I've also got links to some YouTube videos on setting up EchoLink and tutorials and DTMF tutorials. And again, check it out. So again, as I mentioned, I'll put all these links in the show notes, the videos, everything. And again, I highly recommend start with the official documentation, then use the videos in the process. Alrighty, so EchoLink is more than a way to talk farther. It's another way to connect amateur radio operators, learn from one another, and discover just how much bigger this hobby is than the repeater you hear every day. Remember, you do not need to know everything before you begin. You just need to, have a willingness to learn, a willingness to listen, a willingness to ask questions, a willingness to help others once you've learned. But all of that is you have to have a willingness to begin, and you actually begin. So folks, we're going to wrap this up. And until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep exploring amateur radio, and most importantly, keep making those connections. I'll catch you on the air. 73 from the RGV. I am KI5DOG. Out.